This one is funny. Okay. She discusses topics in little depth and then gets mad when the class doesn't participate. Even if students make an effort to comment or ask questions, she basically tells them they're stupid. If you don't say anything, she basically calls you stupid anyway. Lose lose. But she looks really good. This misinformation effect, right? It's when misleading post-event information. Misleading meaning wrong. I've been valedictorian since kindergarten. These are only some of my medals. Eventually I had so many I had to get rid of them. But I do have a record on a video of some of them. I'm really excited that I get to teach at a school that I actually graduated from. I'm such a nerd, honestly. So even when I graduated, I was like, what can I do to still keep access to this really special place? So, yay. Ever since I can remember, I was called teacher's pet. Now that I've become a teacher, I realize that the students who are very interested in learning are actually some of my favorite people. Yeah, definitely was picked on a lot, was called a nerd, but literally, like, instead of my name, it was teacher's pet everywhere. It was in the yearbook. People would draw a mustache on me, in those yearbook pictures and say teacher's pet. And so all I have to say to those people is, where are you now and where am I now?
Be mindful about what you're actually speaking about and also reframing the way that you think.
So I realized that ever since I was little, I was addicted to school. I loved learning. And I was always really competitive, and I feel like that trait has still stayed with me, whether it's in dance, whether it's at work. And so I always believed that a teacher is a really, really important person in a student's life. So why is this happening? Because we have these schemas, because we understand that these things are related to the category of sleep. And so again, our mind just fills in what we think is missing. My teaching philosophy has developed into this accumulation of all the brilliant things that my teachers have done through my educational journey. And I'm just so, so excited that I get to pass it on to my students now. Okay, our director's making me take these off because they're loud in the mic. What? Oh, ASMR? Yeah. Now I teach at Cal State University Northridge, and that's so special to me because it was the school that I went to and the school from which I graduated. And, I always hear that students, and even in my cohort, people were so determined to graduate. They're like, can't wait to graduate. And I'm like, what are you going to do after graduation? It's not like jobs fall on you from the sky, you know? And so I was so, so lucky that during my graduate and even undergraduate stay at CSUN, I was able to work as a TA, as a teaching assistant, for credit and also for non-credit. I've expired all of the possible credit I could have gotten working as a TA, and I just really enjoyed the learning process. I'm addicted to the feeling of when someone doesn't understand something and I explain it to them, and then they have this like, oh, this eureka moment. I'm literally addicted to that feeling. They're just asked to recall and repeat everything that they remember. Sometimes they'll bring them back to the location where it happened, because maybe that could act as a retrieval cue and help you remember something. What can I do in my life that will continuously give me this feeling? And so I am beyond grateful that the chair of the psychology department reached out to me. She said, our professor for cognition has dropped out. And mind you, this was like the Thursday prior to the Tuesday which school started. And so she reaches out to me and she says, hey, can you teach cognition? And I was like, sure, what's the book that I need to use? And she was like, you need to pick it. And I was like, great, is there a syllabus? And she was like, you need to write it. And so in a weekend, I put together a lesson plan, a syllabus, I chose a textbook, and I showed up to the first day of class. I had a trip to Spain planned that year that I had to cancel, and I really didn't know what would come of it. And I'm so glad that I took that opportunity because I do love it, and I've been at Cal State University for over a decade now. So I'm at the university, I'm at my happy place. I love it here. Ever since I graduated, I knew that I always wanted to stay connected to academia, and I'm just so, so blessed and so grateful that I get to continue sharing my work experiences, my life experiences with all these incredible students. I teach in the psychology department, but I teach a variety of different classes. So the class that I teach most often is applied cognition. There are several situations that occur in which students mistaken me for another student rather than a professor. Sometimes the people on campus don't know if I'm a teacher or a student. Just the other day I was walking and, a student crosses the street, approaches me and starts walking down the sidewalk with me and he goes, "You must be the best dressed person in this school." Like, how do I tell him I'm a teacher without telling him I'm a teacher? And I was like, "Oh yeah, well, if students have to stare at me talk for 3 hours, I might as well put in the effort." And so he kind of like stopped walking and he was like, "Oh, you're a teacher here." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Me too." And I looked at him and I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you teach?" And he was like, "No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a teacher." I was like, "Yeah, I totally figured that." But yeah, it has been interesting being a bit younger than the majority of the professors who work at the university. In my search of trying to understand my purpose in life, which is something that I know we all struggle with, I've come to realize that all of the things that I do, whether it's performing, teaching, it all comes back to making an impact in another person's or other people's lives. And so I feel very grateful that I have an audience in all of these avenues that are willing to listen to me, to learn with me, to learn from me, and to feel inspired, to feel motivated. I'm just really, really grateful. It's always bittersweet for me. It's getting towards the end of the semester, and I've become so close to a lot of my students, and I really love them and I wish them well. And every time the semester ends and students leave, I'm happy for them, but I'm also a little bit sad that I won't get to see them anymore. So,
And how many years have you been doing this?
I have been teaching for past 13 years. Yeah, long time. Celebrities read mean tweets about themselves from the media, but let's make it professors reading their ratings from students over the years. Here's my favorite one. She's trying to gain followers on YouTube, so she makes you watch her lecture videos from her site. The reason I had created YouTube videos is during COVID, when we weren't able to meet in person, I had an entire backlog of content and I had access to a lot of really smart people in tech. So I would add that as like supplementary materials for the students. But I guess I'm just trying to get views. She's repetitive and beyond, in caps, boring. If you have a question, don't bother asking. She'll berate you and threaten to take away extra credit, which I don't even give. She's extremely rude and unprofessional. Her profile picture on Canvas, our education platform, says it all. Her profile picture on Canvas says it all. Sorry, my festive dog is offensive to you. Honestly, from all my reviews across the years, again, over a decade, I'm definitely skewing higher on the awesome. The website removed the chili pepper, but I definitely did have a chili pepper before.